Once an atheist said to me that he could know things for certain without needing God. And he said that because of this, that proves that God is not the source of all knowledge, because he can know things without God. Therefore, that proves that God does not exist. This is a summary of our conversation. I asked him then to show me what he could know what he could know without God for certain. He answered, "I can know for certain that I exist." I asked him to show me how he could know that. And he replied, "I think, therefore I am." But I said, the problem with the argument, "I think, therefore I am," is that it's a fallacious argument, because when you say "I think," you're already presupposing your existence. When you say "I think," you presuppose your existence, and therefore this argument presupposes what it is meant to prove, that you exist. And he said, yes, but Kierkegaard got around this problem. Kierkegaard said, X thinks. I am this X. Therefore I think. Therefore I am. In other words, the argument goes, the opposite of I exist is I don't exist. But to affirm I don't exist is impossible. In order to say I don't exist, one must exist. Therefore, the proposition I don't exist is a contradiction. It's self-refuting, and therefore it's impossible. Therefore, because saying I don't exist is impossible, the person who says I exist must necessarily exist, because the opposite is an impossibility. Therefore, I exist. Therefore, I can have certain knowledge of my existence without God. Therefore, God is not necessary for getting to at least one certain piece of truth, namely my existence. Therefore, God is not the source of all truth. Therefore, first of all, the presuppositionalist argument is a failure, but worse than that, the God of the Bible does not exist because he claims to be the source of all truth. But I've just shown here in 10 seconds that I can know something for certain. I can know something to be true for certain just by reasoning in an autonomous fashion. I answered him and said, not too quick. Don't be too quick. In order to present this argument, you had to use your reasoning. But how can you know that your reasoning is trustworthy if your reasoning is just the product of time, chance, and matter? He replied, because the opposite is logically impossible. It doesn't depend on my reasoning. It's axiomatic. It can't be otherwise. Saying I do not exist is self-refuting. It can't be otherwise. It's as if I said words don't exist. I'm using words in order to refute the existence of words. It's a self-refuting argument. Therefore, words do exist. It's the same thing with the proposition, I don't exist. In order to say it, I must exist. Therefore, I exist. It's got nothing to do with my reasoning. It's axiomatic. It can't be otherwise. That's my proof. And it's certain proof. So I replied to him and said, but What you've just presented here is an argument which is 100% logical. It's based 100% on logic. Your argument is in fact based solely on the law of non-contradiction. But in order for you to be right, the law of non-contradiction must be objective, universal, and immutable. If not, your argument doesn't hold up. Because if logic is not objective, universal, and immutable, if it's just a question of personal preference or of convention, then I could say to you, okay, I agree. The proposition I don't exist is self-refuting. But personally, self-refuting arguments don't bother me. So I've just refuted your argument. Nobody would accept such an answer, because we all know that the law of non-contradiction is objective, universal, and immutable. So, here is my question. According to atheism, where does this objective, universal, and immutable law that we call the law of non-contradiction, where does it come from, according to atheism? If what you say is true, then the law of non-contradiction is objective, universal, and immutable. But in your universe, the only thing that exists is matter and energy. Explain to me how you get the existence of an objective, universal, and immutable standard that you use in order to prove what you know for certain. If you can't account for the existence of this objective, universal, and immutable law, if you can't account for it according to atheism, then you can't use it to prove your argument. And you can't expect me to accept your proof if you can't account for this law. In other words, you can't appeal to an element which cannot exist in your universe. It's a sign of blatant incoherence. But it's even worse than that. The law of non-contradiction is an integral part of your proof. It's the basis of your proof. And you yourself have said that the law of non-contradiction is axiomatic, that it can't be otherwise. It has to be. Well, I can account for its existence, the existence of the law of non-contradiction. I can account for it in my universe, according to Christian theism. Logic, the law of non-contradiction, logic is the way God thinks. Because according to the Bible, Jesus is the Logos. So it seems to me that in wanting to prove your existence, what you have in fact proven is the existence of the Logos. Because if, as you have said, it can't be otherwise, it's axiomatic, it can't be otherwise, then that means necessarily that the Logos must exist. Therefore, the Logos does exist. Therefore, Jesus exists. Therefore, God exists.